Jason, you able to hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Gotcha, thanks.
All right.
All right. Okay, I think we are, looks like we're live on YouTube and going on Zoom, and it is 6 o'clock. So we will go ahead and call the meeting to order. And Mr. Scanlon, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, ma'am. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Kathy, roll call, please.
Mayor Bean,
Here.
Councilmember Chapman,
Is absent.
Councilmember Furby. Here. Councilmember Scanlon.
Yep.
Councilmember Skook.
Here.
Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is public comment. So that is open to anyone who would like to provide comment and is limited to 5 minutes per person. We'll start with Zoom. Is there anyone on Zoom? You can use the raise your hand function or feature if you would like to provide public comment.
We've got no one with their hand raised.
All right, is there anyone in the room who would like to provide public comment? Okay, you can go ahead and step up to the podium. And give us just a second, make sure the microphone is working, and then state your name and address.
Hello, my name is Debbie White. I am a former resident of Ishpeming, and I now reside in Chalkley Township at 774 Greenfield Road. I'm here representing a local group of volunteers called Voters Not Politicians. Voters Not Politicians is a nonpartisan organization, and we helped to end gerrymandering in 2018. We joined a coalition called Promote the Vote 2022. Starting this weekend, we will begin circulating petitions to place a proposal on November's ballot to amend the Michigan Constitution. Our proposal aims to ensure that elections are both accessible and secure. I'd like to briefly outline the 10 key points in our proposal. Promote the Vote 2022 would recognize the fundamental right to vote without harassment or intimidation. Number 2, it would require military or overseas ballots be counted if postmarked by election day. Number 3, it would continue to require voters to verify identity with photo ID or a signed legal affidavit. Number 4, it would provide voters the right to a single application to absentee in all elections. Number 5, it would require state-funded postage for absentee applications and ballots. Number 6, it would require state-funded absentee ballot drop boxes. Number 7, it would provide that only election officials may conduct post-election audits. Number 8, it would allow 9 days of early in-person voting. Number 9, it would allow donations to fund elections which would be publicly disclosed, and it would prohibit foreign contributions. And finally, number 10, it would require that canvass boards certify election results based only on official records of votes cast. Voters, not politicians, does not support misinformation about our election system or disinformation that confuses voters and prevents voters from having the information they need to vote. No matter who you vote for, your vote should count, and you should feel free to exercise your right to vote without fear, intimidation, or confusion. Without our constitutional right to vote, voters are powerless against extreme politicians on the polling side. I hope that you will stand with us, the voters of Michigan, and our fundamental right to vote by supporting our petition drive. It's going to take all of us standing together to protect our liberties. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to provide public comment? All right, if there is no one else for public comment, then we will close that and move on to item number 5, which is the approval of the agenda.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
All those in favor of approving the agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then we will move on to item number 7. 6. Agenda comment. If there is anyone in the room or on Zoom who would like to provide comment specifically to an item on the agenda, this comment period is limited to 3 minutes per person. Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to provide agenda comment? Please use the raise your hand function.
We are good on Zoom.
All right, is there anyone in the room who would like to provide agenda comment?
I would like to reserve time for item number 9.
Okay, do that. Okay, is there anyone else for agenda comment?
Definitely to comment on item 9 also.
All right. Is there anyone else for agenda comment? Okay, if there is no one else, then we will close the agenda comment period and move on to item number 7, which is the consent agenda, of which there are 3 items: minutes of the previous meeting, March 9th and March 9th closed session, and March 30th, approval of disbursements, and declare library computers a non-folding table and 438 books as surplus.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we, excuse me, accept the consent agenda as presented
All those in favor?
with a question.
Yes.
On the computers, is that going to be a security breach? Are they going to be wiped out? Or I know they were just training, but if they were in the network or?
Sorry for turning my mic on. The answer is if a computer gets turned into surplus, we will have 906 either pull the drive or pulverize it or clear it, whatever's most appropriate based on that.
Did we vote on that? Okay, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, that brings us to item number 8, which is the monthly financial statement report.
So the figures that you have got in front of you run to the end of February. Plant Moran have now reconciled banks to the end of February. They're about to start working on March. We are still working on audit preparation, and the one thing to note is revenue not represented in this report includes the final tax disbursement, which is waiting on the settlement figures from the county. That's about it.
Are there any questions? Okay, thank you. All right, and that brings us to item number 9, which is a public hearing for proposed sale of the property at 52-51-573-02-00, otherwise known as the Pump House property. So we will go ahead and open the public hearing, and we have 2 who have indicated that they would like to speak on this topic. As a point of clarification, is there a time limit? Is there a time binding to this period for comment, or is it just, we moved from agenda comment into this, and I don't know that we've ever actually, I've not been at a meeting where someone specifically spoke at a public hearing.
Yeah, I don't think there's any specific limit, but reasonable is always read into anything like that.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Claudia Demarest, 821 Marie Street, Ishpeming. I have several questions. One of them may have been answered by Kathy as we were coming into the building. I wanted to know if this property was on city property, US Steel property, or CCI property. And Kathy said that it was on city property. City bought it from CCI? Actually, I bought it with US. Oh, US Steel? Okay. And did you have is there a price on how much that was bought for? No, okay. Oh, I think that's there. What is the size of this property?
We believe it's
It was about an acre
we
and a
believe it's
half.
1.4 acres, but we have not surveyed it since at this point. And I don't know that the US Steel document shows a survey.
Okay. What is it zoned?
Neighborhood commercial,
Okay. And is the playground equipment still there? And
yes.
is it on this property?
Playground equipment is still there, and it is still there on that property, yeah.
Okay. And who do I contact to make an appointment to go and look at the property?
We're not represented by a realtor. You can go up and walk, if you want to walk inside the facility, then we can coordinate through the DPW.
Pardon?
If you wanted to go through the building itself, we can coordinate that through the DPW.
Okay, thank you. Is there any contamination on this property?
I don't know the answer to that question. We can look it up.
Okay.
It would be one of those things that we would offer to anyone who makes if it goes to sale, it would be offered to go through the Brownfield Authority to look at the cleanup, because there's 45 days, within 45 days of sale, they can use Brownfield Authority to work on any kind of cleanup that's necessary.
Okay. If I can notice that the call in the next couple of days, and I get the information, right,
We will certainly attempt to have that. I mean, I'm not looking at my calendar to say what time is the best time, but we will be looking for that information starting tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you.
If I could bring a point here before Mike will indulge me, I don't agree with the proposed sale because I believe we rejected the offer. So
We don't have an offer, we're declaring surplus at this point.
well, then we should say possible sale. There is no proposed sale to me.
You have to put it up for this, don't you?
Yeah, we'd have to go through, but it kind of is deceiving when it says that the public hearing is for a proposed sale. There is no proposed sale.
I think there's a notice on that public hearing, and I don't know what that said. That's just the
But just so
agenda.
it's clear that there is no sale pending at this time.
Correct.
Thank you, Michael.
Maybe a few people remember me, like, yeah, me.
It's on.
Sounds like it's on.
You can hear me anyway, so. Anyway, I'm Mike Tonkin, 612 North 3rd Street in wonderful city of Ishpeming. And item 9 did come up a month ago, and it sounded like it was a sale already in progress, which was kind of a shock to me, okay? One of my pet peeves is being former council person, mayor, is that I always wanted to see things going through proper steps and procedures. And are we hurting that bad for money that we have to sell off anything out there at any price? So keep that in mind. And I'm glad Pat brought that up, but that's why I'm here, because it looks like this is coming up for sale. Bingo, here it is. And I'm going, wow. For one thing, being an old timer, I remember packing water into people's homes back in the mid-70s. I don't know if anybody else remembers that when we had the drought in the 70s. We pumped out Tilden Lake, Lake Sally, Lake Cedar Lake, and dropped the water level on Dandelion, big time. People were running out of water all over the county. We used that as an emergency backup for the city. Now we're talking about getting rid of that, and everybody's talking about global change, things are drying up, getting too wet. Now you're looking at getting rid of something that's in your infrastructure for an emergency service. I know it's not simple just to hook a hose up to it and go through it, because there's a lot of regulations involved. The regulations are always adapted and adjusted for emergencies. So are we that desperate to get rid of this pump house? That's my first point. Okay, secondly, when I looked at the picture in your packet on that piece of property, there's a big pie-shaped piece that leads up to that building. Also, I can see part of that is either restricting the lake, I call it Lake Stewart because it's his neighborhood. Lake Stewart behind there, that hinders access to that piece of property. I, for one, would like to see that piece of property developed in that area because it is a nice little spot that's back in there that needs to be developed. By putting a big chunk of this property up front, not available for people to develop, it'll hinder future progress in that sort of operation. So I was just told, like I said, the first thing about me was that this was going up for sale, boom, 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 you're done. And if anybody really put some time into this, you know, who told you what and all that sort of thing going on. But also, we're talking about underground, there's infrastructure going to that building from that building. The city going to have to remediate a lot of that stuff in order to sell this property. And we're going to have to go through a big process of hooking into our water system to adapt it out of our system. That stuff, as we all know, doesn't come cheap, it doesn't come free by any means. So, like I said, dollars are dollars, but once we sell something, we don't get it back. And this is something I harp on all the time, especially on the planning commission. We're talking about getting alleys abandoned, subdivision parts abandoned, and things like that. It's very important that we look to the future on this stuff, not worry about making $500 an acre up front and trying to balance the budget that's way overdrawn on already. So if you want to come up with some system, we should be taking inventory of what's in the town, what we should look at putting up for sale, and go through the process with the planning commission. The DDA could be a big help. We've got Lake Superior Partnerships on board now. They could be a help in developing something like this too. So, and you could probably get more money for it than paying a few dollars over the fence and here you are, a piece of property. So I just would like to remind everybody that this was used in the past for emergency water usage. And that can happen again. Like I said, I remember carrying 5-gallon pails into people's homes and filling them up with potable water so that they could get blind because their wells had gone dry. National Mine, all over the Republic, all over that area. And we were just as close to running out of water in town. Hopefully people remember that. That's my only comment. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there any further discussion on the public hearing for that property, I suppose, as declaring it as surplus? Is there anyone on Zoom?
We've got no one on Zoom.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, then we will close the public hearing for the declaration of that property as surplus.
6:20.
At 6:20 PM. Thank you. Okay. Oops. Then we will move on to item number 10, which is an update from Lake Superior Community Partnership. It looks like we have Sarah Lucas on Zoom and Elle in the room here. Okay.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah Lucas from the Lake Superior Community Partnership. Am I good to start presenting?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm here tonight to, per our partnership, to give you kind of an update on what we've been doing on behalf of the city of Ishpeming over the last couple months. I have an update, a personal update that I think you're all aware of. I'll be leaving the Lake Superior Community Partnership as of Friday next week. I've accepted a position with the state of Michigan and the new Office of Rural Development. So I'll be beginning that position on April 18th, and look forward to continuing to work with the city of Ishpeming in my new capacity. The LSCP I wanted to share is looking for a successor, and as they've begun that search and conducted that search, I just want to be really clear that there's been a lot of discussion about the direction that the LSCP is headed and has been headed over the last year, and the vision that we've kind of put together over the last year, the strategic plan that we've developed, and there's just a real solid consensus that the board wants to see the organization continue to move in the direction that we've been going. And that includes strong partnerships with communities like the city of Ishpeming. And so I'm confident that whoever comes in after me will have that same priority, and we'll have a real productive relationship with the city of Ishpeming. So with that, I wanted to introduce Elle Jansen. She's our Economic and Community Development Specialist. She came on board in January, and she's been working closely with Craig since she joined the LSCP. She's essentially project manager for our partnership with the city of Ishpeming, and she's been doing a great job. We're really happy to have her at the LSCP, and know that you'll be in good hands after I leave, working with Elle. So with that, I'll turn it over to Elle, and she can kind of fill you in on our work thus far. And I'll stay on Zoom. And if you have any questions after Elle's update, I'm happy to answer those. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Elle. I've met some of you before at different meetings, but it's nice to meet people that I haven't yet. Like Sarah said, I started at the LSCP in January, so I'm fairly new. I came from the St. Ignace area, where I was a community development fellow there, working with the MEDC and CDM on redevelopment ready certification. And that's a pretty big part of the contracts that we have with Ishpeming. So that's just a little background on my experience, so you guys know what I've done before this. I wanted to give you a quick update. Obviously, we're still early on in our contract, but there's some fun stuff happening. I think there's a lot of momentum. So excited to report that back to you. The first is that Sarah and I have met with a couple of different people about blight management and blight mitigation and steps that the city and city council specifically can take. We should be able to get a strategy by the end of the month, we're thinking. I know Sarah's trying to get some work done on it before she departs next week, and then I will work on the final draft as well. So I know that's something that we want to get to you as soon as possible in order to sort of establish a process for you. In addition to that, a RRC best practice is a joint meeting. And we're hoping at the end of the month to have a joint meeting between City Council, the DDA, and the Planning Commission. And there will be a couple of different topics to go over. You'll get an agenda. But one that I think is really important is the communication strategy that we've drafted at the LSCP for the city. Recommendations for how you can communicate things that are going on, and different routes you can take. And the other is prioritizing which RRC best practices you want completed. I've worked on a couple, and there should be actually some that council will be able to approve at next month's meeting. But I also kind of want to hear from council, the DDA, the planning commission on what should be prioritized, what you want done immediately, what you see as more urgent. So that's everything I kind of wanted to put into your brain right now that's been going on in the last couple of months is I've gotten acquainted with Ishpeming and have been working with Craig. I want to make sure that the city doesn't feel Sarah's absence, so I want to be here as much as possible. I know Lindsay, Craig, and Kathy have my information. Please reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns. I don't have cards right now with my contact information, but I will be here and I'll be around. I want to be as accessible as possible. So if you have any questions, just let me know.
All right. Does anybody have any questions? No? All right. Well, thank you for the update. And we're sad to see Sarah leave the LSCP, but I think that the Office of Rural Development will be a fantastic place for her and her efforts. And we look forward to continuing to work with her, and we look forward to working with Elle and the LSCP. And I'm encouraged to see the progress and to hear about things that are on the close horizon coming about. So thank you for the update.
Thank you all. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I look forward to continuing to work with you in the future.
All right, so that will move us along to item number 11, which is the request to purchase police officer ballistic vest and external carriers. And I will, Chad, are you going to take that one? Oh.
Yeah, for our ballistic vest, we have to, it's required that we change them every 5 years. We're coming up on our 5th year now. It'll be at the end of the summer. So I went through some bids. We ended up, we're asking to go with the ones we have right now. They have an extra level of protection. I looked at some cheaper versions of it, but it's less protection, which I don't think is a good idea when it comes to officer safety. When we're putting on, these are lighter versions. It also, with the exterior, they're called exterior vest carriers. That's what you see our officers carry on the outside. They're already set up for the, what we call our molly clips. That's the stuff we carry on the outside. So it's a quick change over to that. So there's gonna be no extra cost when it comes to that. I did send a bid out for 4 different bids. CMP Distributors out of Lansing, they got back with me quickly. That's the one I'm requesting to go with. They also have volunteered, if we do go with them, they'll drive up here free of cost and do the actual measurements on our officers. So that's a bonus for us. So we have the exact measurements comfort-wise. Nelson Tactical is out of Green Bay. They gave me some cheaper options, but they're not as good as coverage. And like I said, I would rather have the coverage and pay the extra few bucks to keep our officers safe than to go away from the coverage. The Michigan Police Equipment, which is out of Charlotte, they don't carry that type of vest. They gave me another option. I looked into it. The reviews on it and talking to other departments wasn't very good. They don't seem to last. The officers complained about comfort levels, pinching, and heaviness of the vest. And the Keesler Police Supply out of Indiana, they never responded to me. I sent out emails and I attempted to call them several times. So these, and also with this, I will be, once I get an approval and it opens up through the DOG, there is a grant option. I will be applying for that grant. Last time I did it in 2017, we ended up getting back just under $2,900 for it. So it does help the city out a little bit. So I will be applying for that once that opens up again. And once I get the okay to go ahead with the vest. With that grant, we do have to purchase the vest first. Once the vests are purchased, they will reimburse, and that's typically in September, October is when that comes out. So, but we would have to purchase before I could even, before I'd get those funds back.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we go along with the recommendation from Detective Radaba and go with CMP Distributors of Lansing for the amount the amount of $10,625.
Have a motion and support. Is there any further discussion or questions on that?
One question now.
Sure.
Forgive me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
The plates that go in the carrier, the actual bullet preventative, those change? Those go with the new vests?
Those will go with the new vest carriers. That's another reason why we did want to go with the external carriers, because we ordered those a couple years back, the heavier ones, and they will interchange with that, so we won't.
And those are a lot more protective too.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. Yep. That's all.
All right, so we have a motion to approve the purchase of the carriers for the amount of $10,625. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, then that brings us to item number 12, which is resolution number 4-2022, Mdot performance resolution for municipalities. And so in reviewing this, it says that it is required by the Michigan Department of Transportation for purposes of issuing to a municipality an individual permit for the use of state highway right-of-way and/or an annual permit for miscellaneous operations with the state highway right-of-way. So my understanding of this is that it releases the Department of Transportation from liability and transfers that to the municipality. Is that what this?
It basically gives us the authority to go through the MI Bridge portal and apply for construction permits and right-of-way permits. So when we need to close a street, whether we need to clear sidewalks, whether we're having the Gus Macker and there's going to be a shutdown along there, or the 4th of July parade, all of those things that would touch, and if there's any sort of a closure, whether it's a temporary or a detour, we have to go through that system, and if we're not registered and have a resolution behind it, then we get rejected. So annually we apply for the main permit, and then each event we apply for a sub permit under that permit, and this is our annual resolution.
Gotcha.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion that we accept or adopt resolution 4-2022 as it's presented this evening.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. And then we are on to item number 13, which is the first reading of amendment to ordinance number 8-400, which is the sign ordinance. And I guess I'll begin this was discussed at Monday's Planning Commission meeting. And the Planning Commission was hoping for more clarification before we did anything with it. So I don't know if we should table that or move forward with it. I guess to sort of summarize, if you've looked at it, and I'll summarize my interpretation of it, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. That the, basically, if you're reading the sign, you are now, you've sort of violated your own sign, or if the sign ordinance has to be enforced in such a way that requires reading of the sign, then it is unconstitutional. That, I think that's what I was going for. And
That's
so,
about 99.9% true. There
Okay.
are some exceptions.
okay, so the amendments to the ordinance are to bring us in line with that 99%.
Yes.
And to make a few room for a few exceptions. But our sign ordinance was written in such a way initially that you would be reading all of the signs to determine what kind of sign they are, because that's how they're regulated, is by the type of sign they are, and the type of sign they are is largely based on the content of the sign, which now you can't read or you are in violation. So there were a lot of weird, it was like, so when we looked at this on Monday, it was if your home is for sale, you used to be able to have a for sale sign in front of your home around the time that it was for sale. But now you can have a sign at your home around the time that it is for sale, in addition to other signs that you may or may not be able to have at other times for various different reasons. So it was all sort of complicated, and there was lots of places to poke holes and play devil's advocate. And I think that we poked a lot of holes and played a lot of devil's advocate, and we're still not sure that the proposed changes prevented people from poking lots of holes and maybe making it more complicated than just leaving it as it is, and maybe coming up with a more comprehensive strategy for it.
Your Honor, I think this council has tried to promote our committees having that purpose to act on it. So I would make a motion that we table this until the planning commission is satisfied.
Okay. All right. Do we vote on the table, Stu?
Page 5. They'll go on. What repair?
You want it?
No, the repair.
Repair any sign. Structurally alter or repair any sign or advertising structure within the city without first obtaining a certificate of compliance.
Right.
We should take repair out.
Implying that existing signs don't fall under the, well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong again, but in the context of this, generally, there could potentially be more signs? I don't know.
Well, I
The
think
whole thing is very confusing.
this is under the section that requires you to get a permit.
Okay.
And most of the changes are in the section where you do not have to apply for a permit to put up a sign, such as just putting a little stick-in-yard sign. That's exempt, you don't have to get a permit. So what Stu's looking at is where permits are required, and repairing is in there. That's the existing ordinance. And this paragraph goes on and talks about having to get compliance with the building code and the state electrical code and things like that. So I'm guessing that's why it was originally put in there, just to make sure that repairs that are made are also in compliance with those codes. Probably applies to much larger and more elaborate signs than the little stick-in-yard signs that you don't need permission to post. But that would be, again, if the planning commission's considering.
Okay. I will make a note and take that concern to that group.
The Butler Theater is a good example of one of those where if you replace that sign and you make it a lit up sign, then there's probably some electrical work that may go all the way back to the breaker if it's got the old breakers in it. But that box would have to be brought up to code, then the wiring might have to be brought up to code, and so you wouldn't want to necessarily take that repair out from that perspective. If it's a wood sign and you're repairing it, probably doesn't need a permit, but you know. I understand. I'm saying that's why the planning commission has to look at it and decide whether there's a caveat to the word repair. Is it signs that have a code associated with the repair versus a wooden sign? I don't know, but that, I mean, I get your points, that you might want to look at that, but the other point, and that's where your devil's in the details thing, right? So.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think the big decisions that need to be made, maybe at planning commission, maybe here, is basically how many signs. You know, particularly in residential areas where you don't need a permit, how many signs? Right now, you can have 1 yard sign. And then if you're selling, maybe you can have another one. Maybe if it's political season, you can put up a political campaign sign. And we've had issues come to discussion at the council level about the sheer number of signs in people's yard that during campaign season, it far exceeds 1 for an awful lot of people. And so the question, when you're amending the ordinance is 1 the number you still want to go with? So.
Okay. So, yeah, we will revisit that. And as a table, we vote on a table?
We did not.
Okay. So we have a motion to table this. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We'll move on to item number 14 is the first reading of amendment to ordinance 12-500 permitting separate metering for water consumption not entering the public sanitary sewer system. All right.
This is just to clear up some of the, some parts in this ordinance. The second lawn meter is used for outdoor use, or it's supposed to be used for outdoor use only. Right now, there are currently 200 water meters that are used for second water meters. No idea how many of them are in use. And some of them are actually inside people's houses being used. What this ordinance is going to do is go back to the way that it was intended. These water meters are to be connected to the outside faucet of your house with a vacuum breaker for protection of the water system. It's also gonna, since we're going to the radio reads, we're not gonna have a meter reader walking around town reading meters anymore. Now it's gonna be up to the homeowner's responsibility that if they want to benefit from this plan, at the end of the season, they will have to bring the water meter to City Hall to be read so that they can get a credit on their sewer bill. And those are two of the biggest ones. Trying to think what else we did on that one. I think those were the two big things on that one.
How are we addressing the cost of the watering meter?
That's in the fee schedule.
Oh, okay.
Right now, if we continue with the current plan that we're on, it would take about 2 to 2.5 weeks for one person to go around town to try to find these meters and read them every month. We just don't have the time.
Your Honor, I will move that we adopt revised ordinance number 12-500 as presented this evening for the first reading.
Stu will support that. All right, so all those in favor of accepting the first reading of amendment to ordinance number 12-500, permitting the separate metering for water consumption not entering the public sanitary sewer system, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Then we are on to item number 15, which is the first reading of amendment to ordinance number 12-100, water and sewer utility ordinance. And Bill, are you going to speak to this one also?
It's more of a front office item.
Okay.
It's to reduce the risk of delinquent water bills by differentiating between tenants and owners of water usage. What currently happens is that you pay a deposit, and after 2 years, if you're in good standing, you get your deposit back regardless of whether you own the building, which carries with it an opportunity to have your delinquent bill attached to your taxes. Whereas if you're a tenant, you can still have your deposit back and then run up a bill and then disappear, and we've got no recourse. This would mean that as a tenant, your guaranteed deposit will be held for the full period of your tenancy, and then apply to your final bill. And additionally, it would also require for those users who have had their deposit refunded for good standing, if they actually get to the point where their water bill has been cut off, we would require them to act as if they've become a new user and to supply another deposit, which would then be held.
Are there any questions on that? Seems pretty
I think
straightforward.
that's gonna clear up a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance 12-100 as revised and at the first reading.
I will support that. Or did you?
Diz.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I heard you or not. Okay, supported by Diz. Motion and support for accepting the first reading of the amendment to ordinance number 12-100, water and sewer utility ordinance. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And that moves us right along to item number 16, which is old business. And Stu, do you have any old business? No. Diz? Pat?
Just a question about where are we at for our audit? Is that progressing or?
So I get that, okay. As far as I'm aware, we don't have an exact date for the audit yet. We've had a list of documents from our auditors. Plant Moran is still working on audit prep. So we're just waiting to see.
Do you or the manager, Kathy, do you remember when don't we have that back by June usually? Yeah.
They normally come in for May.
Okay. That's all, Your Honor.
Okay. I don't have any old business. Do you have any old business?
I have 3 items. First is just an update on the lighting for the cliff shaft. Frailing Electric has provided their estimates, and they contacted us to coordinate with UPCO to establish a new meter that'll just be for the lighting. Since that's going to be a city bill, it takes off the other electricity stuff and keeps it with cliffs. And that was the first step necessary for them to be able to start doing their work. So Bill Anderson was working with Frailing Electric just 2 days ago, so I think it's submitted. Steve, we were remiss in announcing Steve's departure last month and the great things that he's done for this community, from coming on as a code enforcement officer to taking over as our chief of police, and even filling in as a city manager as an interim, and passing the torch to myself. And so we definitely need to make sure when you see Steve to say thanks, but today was his last day in the office. He's going to be on the rolls using some of his vacation time as he transfers, but he will be missed. In the meantime, Chad will be stepping up as the acting, which is very commendable, and we are about to be in the closing of the announcement and work that hiring action soon. And then the update on category B, which is the sort of the various areas of the road work that we're going to be doing this spring and summer, is the documents that needed to be submitted to Mdot have been submitted. They're now going through their board process to get us the agreement document. The agreement document will come back, will generate a resolution tied directly to the agreement language for the council for next month. Meanwhile, GEI is prepping. They're probably 1 or 2 days away from getting the bid packet ready to go in the street. So as soon as we have that, they'll hit the street with that bid pack and move that along. So things are progressing in those areas.
All right. Then we will move on to new business. Pat, do you have any new business?
When you brought up Cliff Shaft, I talked with Bob Clark, the president of the Steelworkers Committee over there, the Cliff Shaft Committee. And would it be possible for us, through our relationship with the partnership, to get them help with doing a grant?
I've offered assistance with them to look at grants. They just need to tell me what they're looking for and when.
Okay, I'll talk to Bob, I'll
But
have him call.
I don't know what the level of grant is to find out who would be best serving them with their application process. But anything is pretty much on the table. I don't
Yeah,
think
I'll
anybody.
call Bob, I'll have
Yeah.
him just call you direct. Thank
Yeah.
you, appreciate that. That is all.
Liz? Stu, new business? Okay. I have an item of new business. So through Eagle Mine, we have a project that we're working with LSCP on that involves the trail systems in Marquette County and creating a long-term sustainable plan for those trails, for the non-motorized trail system, with some consideration of motorized. Mostly the motorized are managed by the DNR, and they have funding mechanisms and permanent easements in place for those, but the non-motorized trail systems do not. The two main non-motorized trail systems being the Caymanon Trail Network in Marquette and the Ramba Trail Network in Ishpeming and Negaunee. And so that is a project that Eagle Mine is working on with LSCP. And as part of that, several of us will be traveling to Bentonville, Arkansas at the end of this month to attend International Mountain Biking Association's Trail Labs workshop that is specifically centered around the creation of sustainable trail systems as a quality of life tourism enhancement for communities. I traveled to Bentonville, Arkansas last year for a personal vacation with some friends and was able to see firsthand how amazing that trail system is and how it winds around through the city of Bentonville, Arkansas, and some of the other development projects that that city has that are very similar to what Ishpeming, Negaunee, and Marquette have as far as potential sort of amenities. So in looking at what this workshop offers, I think it would be an excellent opportunity if Craig were able to attend. It is a two and a half day workshop. So it starts on Sunday, it's all day Monday and all day Tuesday. It's $600 to register for the workshop. Looked at plane tickets are around $600 to $700 to travel round trip from Marquette, K.I. Sawyer Airport, and then hotels are a little more challenging. We had trouble booking immediately in the city, but there are opportunities outside of the city. So we'd probably be looking at, if Craig were interested in going and if we were to approve, would probably, once you throw in meals, I don't know, in the ballpark of maybe $2,000, $2,500. I think it would be advantageous to be able to see what the city of Bentonville has done and look at. I mean, obviously they have a lot of money. They have a lot of money from Walmart Corporation that has been put into that community specifically to do that. We have a lot of the foundations of that here with non-motorized trail systems that run right through the middle of the city. And although I have a description somewhere on the actual workshop, it's put on by the International Mountain Biking Association in conjunction with Bentonville. So I would propose that if Craig is interested and has time that allows, I think it would be a very beneficial travel and workshop.
I think with no time to think about this, just hearing it, but I think it would be, if he's able, very beneficial, because that's kind of our nucleus here now. We're doing a campground. You know, I'm not saying we're rolling the dice, but I mean, it's something, it's new, we're out of the box. I think it's gonna be successful, but it's bikers in the winter now. So I think it would be, if he's able, I would make a motion that we allow him to go.
So also the county is working, local units of government are already working on how do we do this? How is it sustainable? And also, how do you protect those lines so that, Ishpeming doesn't make a decision that now stops access to the Nagani portion of that trail system. And so we're looking at a regional plan. I've already had conversations with LSCP. So it's going to happen as far as the countywide discussion and participation, but it would be helpful to have insight from that perspective.
I would also add that in addition to just the trails, I know that when I came back, I presented in pieces anyway to the Planning Commission about some of the things that that Bentonville has, and some of their housing developments are very interesting, which I think have potential interest for us to see. And one of the things that I found very interesting about that too was the fact that you would walk down kind of a city side street, and there would be houses that had your standard junk in the yard. There would be a vacant lot where there clearly had been a house, and then there would be a brand new, probably $750,000 construction on the other side of the street, staring at both of those two lots. And it was very, there were vacant lots, there were houses that were in less than ideal condition, and there were brand new construction all right next to each other on the same block. And it, honestly, when I saw that, it gave me a lot of hope for some of our vacant lots, or well, gosh, if people can build new construction right next to semi-blighted properties here, then maybe we can do this in Ishpeming too. So I think that there's more application than just the trail side of it. I think Bentonville is a very kind of exemplary small town, again, with the caveat that it's had a lot of Walmart money come into it. The other part to this is that we have made it almost a standard item on the Planning Commission agenda, monthly agenda, is the Malton Road and potential development and how that fits in with recreation. And at Monday's meeting, Brooke Ruthier, who's now the chair of the Planning Commission, kind of gave us an outline of kind of a plan for Malton Road. And she started talking about permanent easements for trail access. And I think that all of these things blend really well together. And so I think that if you had the opportunity to see some of that in action, I think they all just work well together. So cool. So Pat made the motion and Stu supported it. Do we, I don't remember off the top of my head what kind of travel budget there was, or if there is, or should we put a
I would say 2,500, as you were guessing on the high end.
Okay, I think that 2,500 is sufficient for that trip. Okay. All right, so all those in favor of approving Craig's travel to Bentonville at the end of the month with a travel budget of $2,500.
What about you?
What's that?
What about you?
Oh, I'm going with Eagle Mine.
That's even better.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to pay.
No, this is an Eagle Mine led project.
Perfect.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And I have no other new business. Yes, the other potential travel, sorry. So Craig has given this to me. So the Citizen Planner Advanced Academy, and this is for us, correct?
No, this is for me.
Oh, for you.
So you've supported my being a master citizen planner. And this is one of those events that supports maintaining my master citizen planner certificate, but it's also a cohort master planning event for the entire state master planners. And so it's a 1 day, but because it's in the Lower Peninsula and the class starts at 9 in the morning, is generally a travel the night before. So it'd be 2 nights in a hotel and travel. I think that the early registration is $90, so it's $90. I think it's about $105 to $120 a night for a hotel, somewhere around there. So under $500 in total cost, and it's probably closer to $300, but just and that's set for June 9th. So it's a little bit off in the distance, but the early registration is open for that. So it's just.
I think Stuart's making a motion. I'll support it.
Okay.
You know, one thing, just a brief discussion. There's a lot of things like this that we have come across that never would have flew before. And I'm not gonna sit and argue whether it was good or bad in the past, but I don't think we can live without it anymore. Everything revolves around planning and being compliant and ready, rural, the 3R, you know, everything is such a conglomeration that if we don't, we're gonna miss the bus. So I think it's good that he's willing to go, and it's good that you're going with Eagle.
Yeah. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Do we need a budget for this? Or it seems like it's.
I wouldn't say any more than 500. I mean, I don't know that it's gonna be any close to that.
Okay, we'll just leave it. I think it's fine. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, and that is the end of my new business.
And then I have just 2 things, letting you know that the facade grant application window is going to be open here. Kathy and I were trying to get that document ready to go and ready to put on the street, but they have renewed their intent with the DDA to host a facade grant again this year for up to $20,000. Last year, there were 3 recipients. I think it was split 75, 75, 5, but that's on the table. The only thing that they made different this year is within the TIF map, they scaled down what they consider for extra scoring to the downtown area. And so they made a modification to where that downtown special area would be.
The
for
boundaries?
Yeah, so anybody in the TIF district can apply for the grant. But if you're within the boundaries of the downtown area, then you would be given special points towards that. So you would score a little higher because you get those points because you're in the downtown area. Well, it's Lake Street to 7th Street. It's just this row of businesses on Division to Hematite, and then there's just a little bump out off of Hematite to Ely to cover the 2 businesses that are, one that Eagle's cleaning up on the old gas station, and the Ish Creamery that's going in because those 2 businesses are being zoned. Cognition's going to be being looked at for rezoning, and the Ish Creamery is being looked at for rezoning in the next planning commission meeting, and then brought to you next month. So they wanted to make sure that was in the area of consideration for the facade grant to help anybody that's interested in those businesses, you know, whether it's somebody wants to develop that oasis as it gets cleaned up by Eagle, or if anybody else in the downtown historic area wants to apply. And last one is UPCO. UPCO came out and did a survey of all of our facilities, looking at lighting in particular, and the potential to convert to LED. They sent me a PowerPoint presentation and an Excel spreadsheet this afternoon. They're going to sit down and have a presentation with myself and the DPW general foreman and kind of scope out what the project might look like, the rebates that are available based on that project, and then the return on investment savings from converting. So there was some There's a little bit of HVAC boiler system kind of energy consumption and the LED lighting as the first hash at what we might do to improve energy efficiency and savings to the city. So more to follow on that, but it is moving forward. That's all I have.
Okay. Then we'll move on to item number 18, which is our second public comment period. This is limited to 3 minutes per person. Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to provide public comment?
We've got nobody on Zoom.
All right. Is there anyone in the room who would like to provide public comment? Okay. Then we will close the second public comment period and we will move on to mayor and council reports. Stu, do you have anything?
Stu's got a report for you all. Didn't say this one.
All right, thanks, Stu. So should we read this? Should I read it out loud for you? Okay, so I will read Stu's council report. And he is on the 911 County Dispatch Committee. Is that committee? Okay. And so there are 3 items. Gary Jansen, the manager, is retiring at the end of March. 2, Jerry Hebert is the new manager and was a shift supervisor. And Scott Earl Mann is the new shift supervisor. They're moving to a new dispatch center in December of 2022 at the state police, which will be the state police post. And the next meeting is May 19th at NMU. Thank you. Diz, do you have anything? Stu?
Nothing, Your Honor.
And I had something and I forgot what it was. But I would say that I found the joint workshop that we did last week to be very beneficial. And so there were a number of areas around that, around land bank and brownfield authority and tax incremental financing that I had personally had an okay grasp of those concepts. And I feel after that joint workshop that I've got a real good grasp and repeated several of those ideas to other people and hope that maybe we can get some people to take advantage of some of those things and put it to good use in the city. And I can't remember what else I was gonna say. So I guess I'm done. Maybe it'll come to me. So I'll pass it on. We'll go to manager's report.
So probably the hot item is Caroline and I are working to finalize the Lindbergh contract so that we can have our pre-construction meeting. Lindbergh's biting at the bit to start working on Empire Street and get that started. And the Mdot project, I believe, is supposed to end by the end of July. So it'll come and happen quick. So as soon as we get this pre-construction meeting set and executed, we'll start advertising the plan for Empire Street. But just as a warning to all those that live in the Empire Street from 3rd to Oak this summer, their road will be ripped up and a new water main will be installed the full length, and then the roadway will be reconstructed to the full length. So it's going to be a big project. I think its total package is about $1.6 million worth of new roadway going into that street and water system. So it's going to be a real great upgrade and inject to our community. So I expect more news real soon on that.
No, the one thing on that is we shouldn't dig it up in my lifetime. We need to stress that. If UPEA is our engineer on that job, just to pick a name, we need sewer, we need the valves for water, the water lines, everything that's under that blacktop has to be first class A #1. Because the biggest thing we've ever done in this community is pave a beautiful street and then rip her up the next year. So whoever's taken that responsibility, reinforce that to them.
And that is all in the scope. Sewer is not necessarily in the scope. I think the sewer was in okay conditions. It didn't need to be in the scope. And it's certainly in good enough condition right now that if it needed something, it could be a liner and not have to dig up the road. But the full length of water and all of the valve stops, or valve clusters is what they call them in the street, are in that program for this year. And that's, like I said, it's the Mdot piece of it is third to Maine and is $470-ish thousand. And then the Maine to Oak roadway, $65,000 of city money. And then the rest is all water and valve clusters and stuff to make it to the $1.6 million project. So it's a lot of infrastructure under the road going in that's really making this the most important project for the summer. And then that Mdot category B that's coming next is also sewer and water along with the road that's getting repaired. So any piece that's touched with road is also being touched with water and sewer requirements that are going in there. And that's a little bit lagging behind this project from the standpoint of timeline and bidding. So there'll be more on that to follow.
I did remember what I was going to say.
There you go.
So also at the Planning Commission meeting on Monday night, we had the hearings for the conditional use permits for the two cannabis dispensaries that had submitted their applications after the finalization of the application process and the changing of that ordinance a couple of months ago. And so those are for two, one to be down here on Main Street right next to Velodrome Coffee, and the other is at the Ralph's Italian Deli building. And so the two owners of those facilities came and spoke. There was no opposition from the public to those permits, though there was a business owner or a business person with concern, but there wasn't opposition directly. And there was a representative of a third business who had hoped to apply for a permit, but did not get their application in on time. The two applications that were received within 15 minutes, I think.
Very quickly. They were standing out there before you opened.
Yep, so they were received basically as soon as possible to apply, and the third did not make it in that time frame. And so they expressed their support for the two businesses that received the permits and said that they thought that they were upstanding businesses and they look forward to having them open. And if the two are the fire station, which will be on the highway, and then Bryce Sturmer, I can't remember the name of the Ralph's Italian Deli. So that building sale was conditional on the approval of that. So they have a thing worked out. And then the second will be next door to Velodrome.
Through investigation, and Craig can correct me, Ralph's is gonna house both
Yes.
businesses. They're going to stop their seating area and be takeout only from the rear with the new entrance.
Yes.
And then fire station in the front
Yes.
and parking in the Yules area.
Yes.
Correct.
So we don't lose Ralph's Italian Deli. They continue their pickup service, and we gain the fire station in the same location. And to add to that, last week or the week before, maybe the week before, the state of Michigan announced their payouts for the tax revenue collected from those businesses. And so I know that I talked to this last year when that first payment came out, and it was in the $20,000 range per business. This year it's $56,000 per business. So if that number stays the same for next year, the city of Ishpeming would be looking to collect a little over $100,000 in tax revenue from those two businesses. So I think that that's a win-win, if you ask me.
Absolutely.
That was the thing I wanted to comment on. All right. And Caroline?
Nothing further, thanks.
Yes.
I just wanted to remind all the citizens that there is no May election in the city of Ishpeming. So the next election will be August 2nd. It's the state primary.
Thanks.
Your Honor, I will make a motion that we go into closed session pursuant to Michigan Compiled Law 15.268C to consider strategy and negotiations connected with a collective bargaining agreement.
All those in favor? Oh, roll
Aye.
call.
Oh, yep.
Councilmember Furby? Yes. Councilmember Scanlon?
Yes.
Councilmember Skug?
Yes.
Mayor Bean?
Yes.
All right, Jason, we're going into closed session.
What? Oh,
Jason, we're coming back into open. Just confirm you got that, Jason.
Beautiful. Got it.
Thank you. Okay, so no action necessary, so motion adjourned.
We're in open, support.
all those in favor, please say aye.
Yeah, staff proposal. Move back. Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't hear it either.
no,
I have no
Yeah.
recollection.
I
Was there a
know,
vote
I-
on going to open session, to ending the closed and going to open?
I'll make a motion,
That's the one where we need the roll call anyway, is to go in.
which
Yeah,
we did.
right.
For the
I mean,
record, I will make a motion that we return to open session. Support.
all those in favor?
Aye. Support that.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay,
How many times do we do this?
thank you, Jason.